So let's just begin a little bit. And can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your business, how you got started?
Sure, yeah. Well, it started all back in 2017. And my job, I was going through the process of possibly being laid off from my job. And I started looking for alternative methods of income, anything to give me an edge in case I lost my job. And they ended up retaining me, thankfully, at the very last day at my job. But that's kind of what turned me on to the fact that I could lose my job at any day, any time,
Mm,
and I didn't want to be a wage slave. I didn't want to have that 9 to 5 grind to get a paycheck.
mm,
And right around this time, my brother-in-law gave me a book that pretty much revolutionized my life. The book was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it completely changed the way that I looked at the world and made me realize that the way to not be a wage slave and to have actual fulfillment was actually to open up my own business. So I opened up an LLC,
mm,
and I bought my first rental property, and that's how I got started.
mm. Yeah, that's awesome. It's amazing how, even just reading a book can kind of open up a whole new world with that. And I know Rich Dad Poor Dad's very popular. I think I remember my father also, he did real estate briefly and he had that book for a long time. Um,
It's a wonderful book because it's not even just real estate based. It's
mhm,
just in terms of starting a business, it gives you that mindset that you can do it. And that's when I started this self education
right,
process right before I bought my rental.
right,
Just basically just self education all the time, so that when I bought my first rental, I was really knowledgeable about what I was doing, and it served me well.
oh, definitely. So can you tell me a little bit more about We Buy Houses in terms of
Yeah,
where it is now and what your vision is for the future?
yeah. Well, when we
Mhm.
started off just COVID hit last year.
Okay.
Uh, it was probably the best time in many ways to start. It was probably the worst time. But since we've opened up, we have completely got the brand new website going. It's
Mhm.
completely mobile friendly,
Mhm.
and it's increasing in traffic by the week. The Google rankings are going up, the quality of leads are growing daily.
Mhm.
And the last few months, we're even partnering with other investors and other people that are looking to feed us leads.
Mhm.
So we're growing in scope.
Mhm.
And right now, we're probably in the top three or top five for our market. And
Mhm.
we hope it's our vision that in 5 years, we are number one across every keyword, every statistical category that you could get for it, that you could get for anything real estate related.
That's amazing to be going through that kind of rapid growth. What does that, I guess, feel like to be having all these opportunities?
It is a dream come true. And a real quick explanation on that is I come from a customer service background. So my whole life, I've had customer service oriented jobs.
Mhm.
And I found such great fulfillment in
Mhm.
doing this because I'm serving people from the local community. I'm helping them with problems,
Mhm.
but at the same time, it's helping me, it's helping them. They're
Mhm.
solving a problem, I'm solving a problem, and it just feels incredible. I feel like I'm just making just huge differences in their lives, and my business is benefiting as a result.
Great. Um, and just real quick, you mentioned investors also that are seeking you out. What does that mean in terms of real estate, or that, like, are they putting down? If you could explain that a little bit for me and for other people who will be listening.
Yeah, well, what we've had lately is we've had other investors. For example, I have an investor in Philadelphia who contacted me through We Buy Houses in Pennsylvania,
Mhm.
and he wanted to know if he could feed me leads because he was actually getting leads in my market, the Scranton Wilkes-Barre market.
Mhm.
So we signed an agreement, and this investor now feeds me leads,
Okay.
which are useless to him, but
Mhm.
we give him a percentage, a flat percentage of the leads that we close. So
Mhm.
he's making money on leads that he can't do anything with, and
Mhm.
we're getting more leads, which is increasing our revenue, and it's helping to boost us. It's a really great win-win.
Oh, definitely. And is that something that you can do for your own business as well? Like, do you get leads for other markets that you can feed to someone else? Or right now, is it only kind
Oh,
of one way?
no, it can actually work both ways.
Mhm.
I've even had leads for properties that came in New Jersey that I would post through Facebook or some other means. Just if anyone wants, please contact me.
Right.
And that's what I like to do. I like to help people, and it's certainly benefited by these people contacting me, and it's just making the
Mhm.
growth of We Buy Houses in Pennsylvania just happen so much faster. In fact, it's almost scary to see it grow as quickly as it is.
The good kind of scary.
A
Um,
good kind of scary.
right. Yeah, no, I can imagine because building that network itself just kind of amplifies your message and makes it easier to kind of keep the cash flow going, I guess, keep the clients coming in.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
so I know I was going to ask you about the revenue model that you use, and I know you sent me an image. So I don't know if you want me to go ahead and show the image because you had a very like intense calculation that I think is very
Oh,
beneficial.
yes.
Because
Yeah, you can put the
I know that because you're essentially buying houses and renovating them, correct? And then selling them or helping the owner do that, get a better offer. Um,
yeah, yeah,
mhm,
we do both. We will
mhm.
buy a house and renovate it and
Okay.
then put it back on the market.
Mhm.
We also will buy a house and just flip it
Great.
to a cash buyer or another investor, or sometimes we just buy a place, renovate it, and we keep it as a rental. So we kind of have three different uses that we can do with that. And that calculator, and when you show that calculator, it's actually got the calculations for a flip. It's
Mhm,
got it for a rehab, and
mhm,
it's also got it for a buy and hold. So we can calculate the numbers by punching them in,
mhm.
seeing which direction does it work out best for the
Right.
property.
Yeah, definitely. Let me just see if I can show that here. Awesome. I thought it would be good to have it up so you can also kind of explain what everything is. I know we're looking at, I know sometimes like the adjusted gross income and net operation income, I believe it is. But could you just explain kind of what's going on in this screen cap?
Yeah, yeah. This is the screen for our calculator that basically will integrate all of them, the fix,
Okay.
the flips, the rehabs, and the rental properties. So when you could actually see their categories are broken down here. You've got, like you had said, the AGI and the net operating income. We can plug these numbers in each calculator phase, and this screen integrates them all. So we can see everything about a property. Whatever we should do with it will spit itself out onto this page. And you're looking at just numbers here, example numbers from just an example that we ran a property on,
Mhm.
but it projects how it will produce revenue wise as
Mhm.
a rental.
Okay.
And if we scroll down, it'll show as a flip how it would produce as a flip, what our max offer could be
Mhm.
based on the numbers that we put in. And below, it'll show the total rehab cost for a property,
Okay.
which we would just subtract that off the current value of the house as is. So
Mhm.
in a nutshell, this simple calculator that my mentor and I built,
Mhm.
it teaches us so much because we can tell just by plugging the numbers in.
Mhm.
It can tell us exactly what we should do with the property, how much we should pay, and how it'll produce. So it's extremely useful rather than using a back of a sheet of paper or a napkin or
Mhm.
something else to have to write these calculations down.
Oh, definitely. It's very kind of systematic. You can go through and just get all the values in. So you know exactly what you're going to make, or most likely what you're going to make if you decide to buy a property and flip it, or if you're helping to get someone else an offer, you can have all of that laid out when you begin.
And it's a wonderful thing too, because we can actually show the clients, we can actually show them why the number is what it is, or we're
Mhm.
not just throwing something blindly at them. We can pull comps from the MLS, plus
Right.
show the calculator based on the numbers they gave us. And
Mhm.
it kind of adds an extra layer of credibility too when we can show them that.
Right. 100%. And in terms of your own kind of, I'll just stop sharing for a quick moment. In terms of your own revenue model, this is what you're doing for each individual house. How do you kind of project how much money you have to start out with to start buying houses, and then how that's going to grow, if that makes sense? Because
Oh, yes. Well, we have a program that we use, and it's called the CRM Boss.
Okay.
And we use that in conjunction with some software called Table 9 Media. The
Okay.
two of them together
Mhm.
create this funnel that every time we upload a deal and the numbers go in there,
Mhm.
it will tell us what we've spent. It will tell us the projected expenses, so we can keep track of what we're spending,
Mhm.
what the projected values are down to the penny, really, with just a
Mhm.
couple of clicks of a button. So that's a very excellent software that we use.
Definitely. And how much into the future do you typically look when you're monitoring your cash flow? Like a year or 5 years or something like that?
We typically go year to year just because, especially after COVID, we go year to year because we really don't know where the market's going to go. We don't know, if there's something around the corner. So we found that a year to year puts us with enough headway to figure out what's going on, but not too much, just in case the bottom falls out of the market or something crazy changes.
Right. Because you have to be able to adjust pretty quickly in the housing market, especially. Um,
Mhm.
on a little bit more on the housing market, what kind of expenses do you typically run up against besides obviously the investment in the house or the property or that relationship?
Well, we can, depending on what we do with the property, we can run across quite a bit. Like, of course, if we take over a property, there's the utilities to take into consideration. There is clean out fees to take into consideration.
Right.
We're actually doing one now. It's a property that was owned by a hoarder, so we have thousands of dumpster fees and clean out fees. But um, and then you can also have, when you buy a property, you want to have someone come in and just inspect the furnace. You want to have someone do a walkthrough, make
Mhm.
sure there's no termites or anything along those lines that can do harm or damage to the property. So you really want to cover yourself from every facet,
Right.
and even including insurance, just for liability standpoint, depending on how long we hold the property for. So
Mhm.
these are just some little things that can kind of get lost in the shuffle, um, unless you plan ahead and prepare accordingly.
Definitely. And is there, I was also wondering real quick, because things do change so quickly, do you have a certain amount that you kind of, or percentage amount that you save for like emergencies as an emergency fund? Because I know that real estate can change. Sometimes the market dries up and you have to wait it out until it comes back again. How does that work?
Well, what we do is we set
Mhm.
aside 30% of funds for
Okay.
various reasons. One of those funds, 10%, is
Mhm.
dedicated to vacancy management.
Okay.
Another one is expenses, and then another one is major expenses. So we basically will put like 30%, or specifically 10% for the major expenses.
Okay.
We'll put that aside and keep that in a totally separate holding area, so that we could see what that projects as, and what the balance is in that, so it's
Mhm.
not taken away from something else. But between 10 and 20% we'll put aside for repairs and expenses and unforeseen things as that like that.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Like having um, that buffer there, just because I know, as a lot of people have learned through COVID, anything can happen. So having that emergency cash flow is essential. One thing I wanted to ask too is that you've been rapidly growing. How big is your team now?
Our team, we have a certain method to our madness. Right
Mhm.
now, it's just me and my business partner, who's also my mentor,
Okay.
and we keep it to the two of us for a
Okay.
specific reason. We probably could bring on extra people, but when you go to my website, webuyhousesinpennsylvania.com, you'll see pictures of me, you'll see pictures of my family, and I specifically have it set up that way because anyone who calls or emails me,
Mhm.
they've seen me on the website and they want to know who they're dealing with. So
Mhm.
after having seen that on the website, they see that built-in credibility. They want to talk to Ryan. And so I love to give that personal touch to everyone.
Mhm.
And I do all the deals myself by hand. And if we need more help, we just bring in people, other investors, as needed. But
Mhm.
just for the team, it's just me and my business partner right now, because we like to just keep things simple, and people know us, and they gravitate towards us.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense. And keeping it simple is always, in my opinion, the best way to go. Um, yeah. So, what advice would you give to a company that might be struggling with their cash flow or getting a handle on the financial side of the business?
Well, one thing I would say right away is I would definitely do an inventory of
Mhm,
what is money being spent on,
mhm,
and I would catalog that, and I would research the outgoing funds to say, okay, is this producing fruit that we're spending money on? Are we actually receiving a benefit from this in some manner? If you're not, then I would probably just start doing cost cutting, and I would try to allocate the funds best towards whatever we're struggling in, whether it's advertising, marketing, or trying to be more visible in the local community, whatever it is that we're lacking. I would try to cut the fat off
mhm,
and just try to just look in the mirror and see what can we do better, what's working, what's not working.
mhm.
Because oftentimes you'll find a company making money and they're having they're having financial problems, but you also look and see none of these things are really panning out. They're not producing fruit. So you should probably end those and repivot yourself in a manner of speaking.
That makes perfect sense. And that's, I think, we've talked a lot about pivoting, I think, so far in the interview. I think that's so crucial to success, whether we're talking about finances or just general business operations. That seems to play a major part, especially since everything's changing so quickly. Um,
Yeah, and to that point too, one other thing I would add
mhm,
is to keep the costs down, keep your overhead down as a
sure.
company. That's why another reason why it's just me and my partner. We keep the costs down until we grow to a point where we just can't anymore. We're forced to hire people because we just have to. So I would definitely say keeping the cost and overhead down as much as possible too.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you so much, Ryan. Yeah, this has been really informative. I'm excited that we got to speak about all of this today because I feel like real estate is such a complex, like it appears very complicated. There's so many moving parts um, with buying houses and renting and flipping and helping people avoid foreclosure with getting their houses sold. Um, that I think all of these aspects of how the cash flow plays into it are so important to being successful. So thank you so much for making time today to speak with us a little bit about your business and what you're doing at We Buy Houses in Pennsylvania.
Oh, well, thank you very much for the interview. I thoroughly enjoyed it.